Picture this, 1989, and Pontiac engineers wake up one morning with a crazy idea. Let's build a turbocharged V6 Trans Am with more horsepower than the V8 IROC-Z. Then, in classic Pontiac fashion, let's kill it after exactly 1 year. This is the story of the 1989 Turbo Trans Am 20th anniversary. The forgotten forced induction monster that proved V6 turbos could embarrass V8s, then disappeared faster than Pontiac's marketing budget. The 1989 Pontiac Turbo Trans Am 20th anniversary wasn't just another muscle car. It was Pontiac's middle finger to conventional wisdom. While the automotive world worshipped naturally aspirated V8s, Pontiac strapped a Garrett I Research turbocharger to a 3.8-liter V6 and created something genuinely shocking. 250 horsepower. 250 from 6 cylinders. That's 20 more ponies than the IROC-Z's 5.7-liter V8, and 10 more than your neighbor's Mustang 5.0. GM's own Chevrolet Camaro IROC-Z, sitting in the same showroom, got outgunned on paper and in straight-line performance by its Pontiac cousin. Let's establish the landscape. 1989 was peak third-generation F-body madness. The Camaro IROC-Z dominated sales with its 5.7-liter TPI V8 making 230 horsepower and 330 pound-feet of torque. The Firebird GTA offered the same 350 cubic inch V8, same power, same respect. Then Pontiac, in a moment of either brilliance or insanity, decided to commemorate the 20th anniversary of the original 1969 Turbo Trans Am with something completely different. A forced induction V6 that made more power than either V8. Corporate logic, you gotta love it. Under that iconic screaming chicken hood sat a 3.8-liter V6. Not exactly the stuff of muscle car legend. But this wasn't Grandma's V6. Pontiac bolted a Garrett I Research turbocharger and an intercooler to Buick's 3.8, tuned it aggressively, and somehow coaxed out 250 horsepower at 4,400 RPM and a mountain-moving 340 pound-feet of torque at just 2,800 RPM. That torque figure, 340, matched modern turbocharged engines and outgunned the IROC-Z's 330 pound-feet on paper. Physics meet boost pressure. The performance numbers tell a story GM didn't want told. 0 to 60 miles per hour in approximately 6.3 to 6.5 seconds. Quicker than the IROC-Z, quicker than the Mustang 5.0, and accomplished with 2 fewer cylinders. Quarter-mile times hovered around 14.9 seconds at 92 miles per hour. In 1989, that wasn't just respectable. That was genuinely fast. But here's where it gets interesting. Pontiac paired this fire-breathing V6 exclusively with a 4-speed automatic transmission. No manual option? None. Because apparently giving enthusiasts what they actually wanted was too easy. The styling was unmistakable. Every single one of the roughly 1,555 Turbo Trans Ams came painted in brilliant white with distinctive turbo graphics mimicking the Indianapolis 500 pace car livery. Red leather interior, ground effects, fog lights, and those iconic 16-inch gold-painted wheels that screamed 1980s performance louder than a Bon Jovi concert. You couldn't mistake this car for anything else. It looked like it was doing 100 miles per hour while sitting still, which, given Pontiac's tendency to overpromise and underdeliver, was sometimes the only speed it actually achieved. But let's address the elephant in the garage. This wasn't technically a new idea. The original Turbo Trans Am debuted 20 years earlier in 1969 with a turbocharged Firebird 400. That first attempt? An absolute disaster. Pontiac built only a handful of prototypes, fewer than a dozen, because the turbo technology of 1969 was about as reliable as a politician's promise. The turbos overheated, failed constantly, and turned what should have been a performance icon into a mechanical catastrophe. Fast forward 2 decades, and turbo technology had evolved. But apparently Pontiac's commitment to forced induction hadn't. The engineering underneath was fascinating if you're into corporate parts bin efficiency. The 3.8-liter V6 came from Buick, the same basic engine family that powered the legendary Grand National and the mythical GNX. But, and this is critical, the Turbo Trans Am setup was not identical to the Buick twins. Different turbocharger specifications, different tuning, different mission. The GNX made 276 horsepower and 360 pound-feet with its more aggressive setup. The Turbo TA made 250 and 340, still impressive, but clearly detuned. The Turbo TA used a different turbo and calibration focused on durability, rather than outright boost. Pontiac learned from Buick's homework, but changed just enough to avoid getting caught. Inside the showroom, Pontiac created an awkward family dinner situation. On one side, the Firebird GTA, with its 5.7-liter V8, 230 horsepower, traditional muscle car thunder, and the respect of V8 purists everywhere. On the other side, this white turbocharged V6 upstart making more power, more torque, costing about the same $19,500, and fundamentally challenging everything buyers thought they knew about performance. Imagine being the salesperson trying to explain why the V6 was actually faster than the V8. Sir, I know it sounds wrong, but physics doesn't care about cylinder count. The automotive press of 1989 didn't quite know what to make of it. Motor Trend tested it. Car and Driver scratched their heads. Hot Rod magazine probably had an existential crisis. How do you celebrate a muscle car with 6 cylinders? The reviews praised the performance, questioned the automatic-only transmission, and generally treated the Turbo TA like a fascinating science experiment rather than a legitimate performance car. Meanwhile, the Mustang 5.0 and IROC-Z got cover stories and enthusiast worship. The V6 stigma was real, and not even 250 turbocharged horses could overcome it. Sales told the brutal truth. Pontiac built approximately 1,555 of these turbocharged unicorns in 1989. Compare that to the thousands of IROC-Zs Chevrolet moved, or the endless parade of Mustang 5.0s dominating every high school parking lot in America. Buyers wanted V8 rumble, not turbo whistle. They wanted tradition, not innovation. They wanted 8 cylinders of American excess, not 6 cylinders of forced induction efficiency. Pontiac offered the future. And the market said, no thanks, we'll take the past. Let's talk about that turbo system, because it was genuinely clever engineering trapped in a market that didn't care. The Garrett I Research turbocharger spooled quickly for 1989 standards, delivering boost with minimal lag. The intercooler kept intake temperatures manageable. The fuel injection system, sequential port fuel injection, very advanced for the era, ensured consistent fueling under boost. This wasn't some backyard bolt-on setup. This was factory-engineered forced induction that worked, and the market ignored it completely. The competition wasn't sleeping. The 1989 Chevrolet Camaro IROC-Z 5.7 TPI made 230 horsepower and cost about $18,000, slightly less than the Turbo TA, but with traditional V8 credibility. The Ford Mustang 5.0 LX delivered 225 horsepower for around $14,000 and had a 5-speed manual that enthusiasts actually wanted. The Turbo TA was faster than both in a straight line, but speed alone doesn't win hearts. Enthusiasts wanted involvement, wanted a third pedal, wanted the visceral experience of rowing gears. Pontiac said, "Here's an automatic," and wondered why nobody cared. Maintenance and reliability presented interesting challenges. Turbochargers in 1989 required more careful treatment than modern units. Proper warm-up, cool-down procedures, premium fuel, and regular oil changes with the right oil. Many buyers treated them like naturally aspirated engines, and the turbos died accordingly. Parts availability? Forget about it. By the mid-1990s, finding Turbo TA-specific components meant scouring junkyards or paying ridiculous premiums. The limited production run meant no aftermarket support, no performance upgrades, no community. You were on your own with your forced induction orphan. Take a breath, because it gets dumber. After 1989, Pontiac killed the Turbo Trans Am. Just stopped. No 1990 model, no continuation, no evolution. 1 year, roughly 1,555 units, and Pontiac moved on like it never happened. The official explanation? Weak sales and shifting corporate priorities. The real reason? GM's chronic inability to commit to anything innovative for more than 12 months. The Turbo TA proved forced induction could work in a muscle car, embarrassed V8s across the lineup, and got rewarded with cancellation. That's Pontiac in a nutshell. The irony cuts deep. This was the same year that Buick discontinued the Grand National and GNX, ending their turbocharged V6 dominance. 1989 marked the death of GM's forced induction experiments across multiple brands. The accountants looked at sales numbers, ignored the engineering achievements, and decreed that naturally aspirated V8s were the only acceptable path forward. Innovation lost. Spreadsheets won. The Turbo Trans Am became a footnote in a chapter nobody wanted to read. Let's compare the corporate decision-making directly. Ford kept the Mustang 5.0 in production through 1995, constantly refining it, building a massive enthusiast following, and creating generational loyalty. Chevrolet continued the IROC-Z through 1990, then evolved it into different Camaro variants. Pontiac built something genuinely special for 1 year, and then ran away like it had committed a crime. The Turbo TA deserved better. The engineers who created it deserved better. The 1555 buyers who actually understood what they were getting definitely deserved better. The technology inside that 3.8-liter V6 turbo represented genuine innovation. Sequential port fuel injection delivering precise fuel metering. Computer-controlled boost management preventing overboosting and detonation. An intercooler maintaining consistent intake temperatures. All of this in 1989, when most muscle cars still relied on throttle body injection and hope. Pontiac essentially built a modern turbocharged performance car 5 years before the rest of Detroit figured out forced induction, and then threw it in the garbage. Driving dynamics told an interesting story. The turbocharged V6 sat further back in the engine bay than the big block V8s, improving weight distribution. The automatic transmission shifted smoothly, if not particularly quickly. The chassis, third-generation F-body bones, handled competently with the right suspension setup. This wasn't just a straight-line drag machine. With proper driving, the Turbo TA could embarrass V8s in corners too. But again, try explaining superior weight distribution to a buyer who just wants to hear V8 rumble. The cultural context matters. 1989 was the tail end of the 1980s performance renaissance. Muscle cars had clawed back from the dismal 1970s and early 1980s. Horsepower was rising. Technology was advancing. The Japanese were importing turbocharged performance that forced Detroit to respond. The Turbo Trans Am represented Pontiac's attempt to bridge traditional American muscle with modern forced induction efficiency. It was exactly what the market needed, and precisely what the market rejected. Let's address the elephant nobody wants to discuss: the automatic-only transmission. Officially, durability. The 700 R4 4-speed automatic could handle the turbo torque reliably. In reality, cost savings and parts bin limitations. The Borg-Warner T5 manual couldn't handle 340 pound-feet of boost-enhanced torque, and building a Getrag manual capable of surviving turbo duty would have required engineering investment Pontiac wasn't willing to make. So they took the easy path, installed the automatic, and lost every enthusiast who cared about driving engagement. Pricing positioned the Turbo TA awkwardly. At approximately $19,500, it cost more than the IROC-Z, significantly more than the Mustang 5.0, and competed directly with the Firebird GTA V8. Buyers paying that premium expected something special, and what they got was a white car with red interior, turbo noises, and automatic transmission. No manual, no color choices, no customization. Take it or leave it. Most people left it. The Indy 500 pace car connection added prestige, sort of. The styling mimicked the 1989 Indy 500 pace car, which was itself a Turbo Trans Am. But here's the thing. Commemorating a pace car with limited production only works if people actually want the commemoration. Pontiac assumed the Indy connection would drive sales. The market shrugged. Racing heritage doesn't sell cars if the product doesn't deliver the experience buyers expect. And buyers expected a manual transmission and V8 options, neither of which Pontiac provided. Still with me? Because Pontiac's self-sabotage gets even better. By 1990, the Turbo Trans Am was already forgotten. Pontiac moved on to other variants, other engines, other failures. The third-generation Firebird continued through 1992, offering V6s, V8s, GTAs, formulas, and Trans Ams. But never again the turbocharged option. The tooling was scrapped. The engineering knowledge scattered. The opportunity to build on the Turbo TA's foundation evaporated. 1 year, roughly 1555 units. One chance, one complete fumble. This is why Pontiac doesn't exist anymore. The aftermarket never developed for the Turbo TA the way it did for the Grand National or even the IROC-Z. Limited production meant limited interest. Enthusiasts who wanted forced induction Pontiacs bought Buick Grand Nationals instead. Those who wanted Trans Ams bought V8 versions. The Turbo TA fell into a no-man's land. Too rare to support an aftermarket, too compromised to attract purists, too expensive to become a budget performance option. It was the worst of all possible market positions. Fast forward to today, and values tell a revealing story. A clean 1989 Turbo Trans Am 20th anniversary typically trades between the high 20s and low 40s depending on condition and mileage. Compare that to a comparable year Grand National pulling 40 to 60,000, or even a clean IROC-Z 5.7 commanding 25 to 40,000. The Turbo TA remains undervalued relative to its performance, underappreciated by collectors, and largely forgotten by the market. Collectors want GNXs, enthusiasts want 5.0 Mustangs. The Turbo TA sits in garages, unloved and ignored, just like in 1989. The lesson Pontiac should have learned? Innovation without commitment is just expensive failure. Building a genuinely impressive turbocharged performance car, producing it for exactly 1 year, offering no manual transmission, providing no color choices, and then abandoning it completely is not a strategy. It's corporate malpractice. The Turbo Trans Am deserved 3 model years minimum, deserved a manual transmission option, deserved real marketing support. Instead, it got 12 months and a eulogy. What could have been? Imagine if Pontiac had committed to the Turbo TA platform. 1990 model with revised styling and manual transmission option. 1991 with increased boost and 275 horsepower. 1992 as the pinnacle of third-generation F-body performance. Build a community, develop an aftermarket, create generational loyalty. Instead, Pontiac chose the path of least resistance. Cancel early, move on, learn nothing. This pattern repeated until Pontiac itself got canceled in 2010. Karma. The 250 horsepower figure deserves one final examination, because in 1989, that was genuinely impressive from a V6. BMW's inline sixes couldn't match it. Nissan's VG30 V6 came nowhere close. Even Mercedes-Benz couldn't coax that much power from 6 cylinders without significant engineering investment. Pontiac did it with off-the-shelf Buick components, a Garrett turbo, and some clever tuning. The technology was there. The execution was solid. The corporate support was absent. Comparing the Turbo TA to its contemporaries reveals how special it actually was. The IROC-Z, 230 horsepower, naturally aspirated, proven reliability, massive sales. The Mustang 5.0, 225 horsepower, naturally aspirated, manual transmission, cult following. The Turbo TA, 250 horsepower, turbocharged, automatic only, commercial failure. Power alone doesn't sell cars. Engagement sells cars. Community sells cars. Pontiac had the power but forgot everything else. The white with red interior color scheme became iconic, but not in the way Pontiac hoped. Instead of instantly recognizable performance icon, it became that weird white Trans Am with the V6. Enthusiasts today either love the distinctive look or think it's the worst combination Pontiac could have chosen. No middle ground. The polarizing styling matched the polarizing powertrain. You either got it or you didn't. Most people didn't. In Pontiac's defense, and this hurts to say, they did try something different. In an era of V8 worship, they championed forced induction. In a market-demanding tradition, they offered innovation. The execution was flawed, the commitment was absent, but the attempt was genuine. The Turbo Trans Am proved turbocharged V6s could embarrass V8s. Then Pontiac killed it, ignored the lesson, and spent the next 20 years producing increasingly irrelevant vehicles until GM pulled the plug entirely. The Turbo TA was a warning sign nobody at Pontiac bothered to read. Today, the 1989 Turbo Trans Am 20th anniversary exists in automotive purgatory. Too rare to be common, too compromised to be legendary, too forgotten to be valuable. It's the answer to a trivia question nobody asks. It's the car enthusiasts mention when discussing underrated performance cars of the 1980s, before immediately moving on to Grand Nationals. It deserved better. The 1555 buyers who took a chance on forced induction deserved better. The engineers who proved V6 turbos could work deserved better. But this is Pontiac we're talking about. Disappointing people who believed in them was basically their corporate mission statement. Let that sink in. 250 horsepower 1 year, forgotten forever. The 1989 Pontiac Turbo Trans Am 20th anniversary stands as proof that having the right idea at the right time means nothing without corporate commitment. It was faster than the IROC-Z, more advanced than the Mustang, more innovative than anything else in the Pontiac lineup, and it failed spectacularly. Not because it was bad, but because Pontiac gave it 12 months to succeed or die. 1 year. 1555 units. Then silence. This is Car Chronicles, where we celebrate the innovations Detroit built, then immediately forgot. If you enjoyed this tale of turbocharged tragedy, subscribe for more stories of automotive self-sabotage. Next time, we're diving into another GM mystery, the car that proved sometimes having less power made you more legendary. Don't miss it.